This webinar here is for evaluating a multifamily property. What you need to know. What we're going to talk about tonight is the foundational pieces of evaluating a multifamily opportunity. Okay. But first, I'd like to say thank you for our sponsors. And our sponsors are Mark Maupin and the National Real Estate Network. Thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate this opportunity to talk to your group tonight. They have 2 to 3 webinars such as this every month for a low price, less than $30 a month, which is awesome. You can get, I hate to blow my own horn, great speakers like me, but people where you can learn from and gain knowledge and wisdom. So thank you, Mark Maupin. I appreciate that. And thank you for the opportunity to speak with this group tonight. I appreciate it. All right, let's get started. So what are you going to learn tonight? What we're going to talk about tonight? We're going to talk about key terms. We're going to talk about NOI, cap rate, DCR, COC. Don't worry with all the acronyms. We're going to explain them, so don't get overloaded. We're going to show you how to analyze an apartment opportunity. We're going to take you through a spreadsheet. We're going to define what we call the Holy Trinity. Okay, the Holy Trinity in the multifamily realm of how to get those foundational pillars to see if an opportunity becomes a deal. We're going to show you how to do that in, 3 quick steps here. And also we're going to walk you through a step-by-step our proven system for analyzing an opportunity to see if it is, again, a deal. Because I hear a lot of people when I talk, to people, I've got this, I've got a deal. Well, it's not really a deal until all the numbers pencil, right? Until the due diligence is done and it meets all your criteria. So I call them opportunities, which we're seeing a lot, you see a lot of opportunities and very few deals because obviously they have to pencil, right? All right, so let's take a first definition here. NOI, what we just talked about on the first slide there. NOI is your net operating income. And this may sound like a lot of stuff on this page here, but I'll summarize it for you. Basically, NOI is your annual operating income, okay, the income from operating the property, minus your annual operating expenses. And so this does not include debt service. So this is what we call above the line before debt service. So let's take a look at what are some operating income, right? What are they? Rents, obviously, right? We also have a lot of different things like laundry. We have, valet trash. We have parking, pet fees, just anything like curbside pickup or dog park walking or machine, renting of the community center. There's a bunch of different stuff, but that's operating income that you can produce from a property, and that's really where the value add or the incremental operating income can be increased by being very creative on that. I mean, like now also, people are having, a package drop off for Amazon for people who work, right? Well, you can charge for that. Even if it's $5 a month, people will do that so they can get packages accepted at your, let's say, your leasing office, and you have a room for packages, right? So they can go to work, perform at their highest best, right? Order stuff on Amazon and not worry about it sitting out in front of their house getting stolen. They already know that. So that's something you can do. And I see a lot of owners doing that, offering that service. Let's take a look at the operating expenses, because obviously that's a piece of this equation as well. Some of the operating expenses, you got your property taxes, you got your insurance, you got property management, you got contract services, which are snow plowing, landscaping, pest control, just a myriad of stuff. But that's a quick definition for you, or NOI. And again, most all spreadsheets you're going to use, and the one we're going to give you tonight as a bonus here after this, will calculate this for you, but you have to know what it concludes, okay? Because it's only as good as the input of the numbers, right? You got to know what to put in those to create that. All right. Let's take a look at another one. We talked about cap rate, or we showed you cap rate. It's called the capitalization rate, right? It's really a measure of the relative return on the net income yields, okay, on the purchase price on an annual basis. Okay, it's basically the return on the investment. So the cap rate is calculated, as you see there. Cap rate equals the net operating income, which we just calculated on the previous screen, divided by your purchase price. And basically this signifies, or this symbolizes, a risk and reward to the property, right? It's a measure of risk an investor is willing to take. What we have is based in all what we do is the cap rate, a high cap rate, like a 10 or 11 or a 9 or whatever. Those are deemed as higher risk because the risk or return is greater. That means there's something in this opportunity that is more riskier than a low cap rate property, let's say a 2 or 3 or a 5. Okay, that means that the purchase price is higher, but your net operating income is a little bit lower. Okay, but that we'll cover this a little bit more. But you'll hear that cap rates are by area, cap rates are by city, cap rates could be by submarket. It's just a gauge of the risk and return. You just need to know what that is, right? So let's take a look at an example of a cap rate, right? So we got a property we're purchasing for $10 million. The annual income is 1.3, and your annual expenses are 500,000, right? So the NOI calculation there in the middle is 1.3 minus your 500,000 in expenses, so your annual income, right, minus your annual expenses gives you 800,000, which is your NOI, right? So you then divide your NOI, right, by your purchase price. So that gives you an 8% cap rate. All right. So let's take a look if the purchase price was 8 million, right? So let's say the price is lower. Property with in this example here, same thing stay the same, means that $8 million means the NOI is not as high, right? Or the what we can gather from the property is not high for some reason, right? 10%, it may have a tenant problem. It may have 2/3 of the property is vacant. That's why the higher cap rate. There's something, I shouldn't say physically wrong, but something wrong with the property to command a higher cap rate. Okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit further here. Let's take a look at things that affect cap rates, right? What affects why a cap rate is high or low? Lending environment, okay? Lower cap rates, easy to get funds, okay? And again, it goes back, and I hate to say it by area, but it is. Cap rates are area to area. Your areas in the suburbs are typically lower cap rates than your areas in a metropolitan or a downtown area typically. But again, some downtown areas like New York, those are very, very low cap rates because they're all performing. Now, I'm in Michigan. Cap rates in, let's say, Detroit Central City are a lot higher than they are in the suburbs because there's more risk or perceived risk. Okay, and that's the next thing we talk about right there. Higher cap rates, again, 9s, 10s, are cheaper properties. Yes, the price is cheaper because, again, like I said in the last slide, there may be something why they're selling that property lower than it could, because the NOI is not as high because they've got bad tenants. They've got maybe Section 8. They may have, elderly tenants that don't pay the market rent. That's all things that affect the cap rate. And, and again, higher cap rates, right, perceived higher risk, right? Kind of going back to my thing where if you get, a cap rate of a 9 or a 10, there probably is something wrong or some value add or opportunity for you to fix, right? Sometimes, most everything you can fix, but a lot of times you can't. You may be just buying a property at a 9 cap, and you can get in there and you can, do some things, and it's going to go to a 10 cap. It's always going to be a 10 cap, right? That's okay. So don't get stuck on, I got to buy it at a certain cap rate. Just understand that the cap rate is in this equation, okay? And also the tax codes. They lend to, again, favorable codes, which we have currently, favor real estate investors. So again, the higher demand, right? All right, let's talk about another one, the DCR, which is the debt coverage ratio, okay? This is a very important one. This is one of the first ones in the Trinity, okay, the Holy Trinity, and I'll get to that here in a second. This one here, the minimum is 1.25. That has to be met. Okay, there's no bank in the world that's going to let you loan, give a loan if your debt coverage service ratio is not a minimum of 1.25. Now, I have to say that with a preface, because if you've been doing business with a bank for a whole long time, and they may let you come in at a lower one if you put more money up or whatever. But for the case of this webinar, just know that the debt coverage ratio has to be 1.25 or greater. Okay, and this is really a measure of cash flow available to pay your current debt. So again, 1.25. So it's net operating income over your annual debt obligation, right? So the higher the number, right, the larger the net operating income is, right? So if you have more money coming in, then you'll have more money to pay your debt service. And that's what the banks want to see. They don't want to have you have a net income that just gives you 50 cents a month and you're just making it. No, that's why they've put in this what we call the floor of debt. You got to have, 1.25 is that ratio, meaning your net income has to cover your annual debt service 1.25 times. Okay, that's what it really is. And just know that. And again, I'm giving you this calculation here, but again, most spreadsheets will calculate this for you. But again, it's always good to know how to make that calculation yourself. Okay. And I'll answer any questions. I see some people putting some stuff in the chat, and thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. We'll get to that here after this, after I finish here. Okay, so now let's take an example of the debt coverage service ratio, right? Let's go back to our purchase price, of our property we had earlier. Okay, 10 million, 1.3 million of things, annual expenses 500,000. Now we include the debt service because again, this is a debt service coverage ratio, right? So we include now your debt service. So now NOI is calculated the same. That still stays at 800,000. So now your debt coverage ratio here would be your 800,000 divided by your annual debt service. So that's 1.67. Is that a good debt coverage? Of course it is. It's above that 1.25, and the banks love that. And even if you're not using a bank, you need to get that debt coverage service as high as you can, because you're going to have it may not be a bank debt, it may be a private lender debt, right? It may be a private angel investor. So they're still going to have some type of DCR in there. So you want that as high as you possibly can. Okay? Awesome. Thank you, folks. Yes, and I'll answer that question, Alan, here in a few seconds. Give me about 2 seconds on that. Thank you, Alan. Sorry about that. He came in through chat. Cash on cash, okay, or COC. This is another one in the Holy Trinity. Is a cash on cash return. Okay, this is the ratio of annual before tax, before tax cash flow compared to the total amount of cash invested, expressed it as a percentage, right? So I'm looking at the before tax, meaning before tax cash flow, to the total amount of money I had to invest. Now, this is where some people get kind of confused. Oh, they think, oh, just down payment. Well, not really, because you also have another part of that. You also have the closing cost. And, and some of these buildings that are in the millions and millions of dollars, those can be hundreds or $100 million because of the closing costs involved. Well, that's still money you have to come up with, right? You still have to raise that money and pay that money. So that needs to be in this calculation too, as well as an acquisition fee. You should always be taking an acquisition fee if the numbers support it. on your properties, on your acquisitions. That's a fee paid to you or your entity that's purchasing the property. Okay, so that's all money again that has to be raised, that has to be put into this this opportunity to make this happen. So in the bottom here, the cash on cash return is your annual cash flow. Let's say, $10 million divided by what you initially put into the investment. Again, this is just another way to measure success, that investors are going to look at. What's my cash on cash return? We're putting in, $2 million, okay, but we're only getting 50,000 out every year. Is that a good investment? No. I mean, just, you don't even have to run the numbers in that, but that's what this is. It's just kind of a comparison of that. And let me kind of give you an example here of that. I know there's a lot of stuff on this page. I apologize. It's our same example from before, all right? It's the same example, same net income, same debt service, all in cash. Let's take a look at that one right there. It's $3.1 million. That includes the down payment. That includes our closing cost, right? That includes our acquisition fee to our companies or the members who are buying this property. And you can see, folks, that's a lot of money. I mean, let's say we leave off that $600,000. That will really affect, because that'll affect this equation. You have to raise that money. As money's got to come from somewhere or some entity, right? So you have to include it in this equation to get a true cash on cash, because that is cash you're investing. You don't get your closing costs back at the closing table. Those are for surveys and for the title company and the lawyers. You don't get that money back. You'll get that back with your return on what you paid for the property, but you won't get it back at the closing table. So the calculation at the bottom there comes out to be 10.3%. So it's a cash on cash percentage of 10.3% cash on cash return. That's pretty good, okay? And you can follow us, and I'm going to give you this PowerPoint after we're done here too, well, so you can look at that even deeper. Now let's talk about the Holy Trinity. We talked about this in the beginning of what this is. This is really your first go or no go of an opportunity, okay? And I learned this many years ago from one of my mentors, Dave Lindahl, who coined the phrase many, many years ago. These are the three pillars that an opportunity has to have to move into the realm of a deal, right? When he first started, this is your cash on cash is 12%. Debt service coverage ratio is 1.60%. And your cap rate is 8%. Now, again, in today's market and in the past few years, things evolve, right? So we've evolved the Holy Trinity, or revised the Holy Trinity to make more sense, or to meet market conditions, right? So cash on cash is 11%. Okay, we've raised that up a little. Why? Because we're doing a lot more bringing private money and syndications, and so your investors are looking at taking some of that return. So you can't have a cash on cash return of 5% and pay your investors 7%. There's nothing left for you as the owner of this opportunity, right? So you got to get that cash on cash as high as you can. Let's look at the debt coverage ratio as well. Debt coverage ratio is 1.25, right? But before the end of the year, that first year, we want to get it to a 1.3 or greater. Again, that's coming in with a business plan that you have for this opportunity, that you work the plan and get it up and move those ratios, meaning getting those expenses down, driving those expenses down, then will raise your debt coverage ratio, okay, along with other ratios. Cap rate, the same thing. We're going to 6.5 to 7.0 because of market conditions right now. But again, you're always looking to that future, okay, of wanting to get that cap rate raised up even higher, right? By, again, working your business plan, executing on taking care of the expenses, executing and driving efficiencies into your buildings, your properties will raise that cap rate, okay? Now, people ask me, okay, oh, this is great. This is cool. I get these 3 things. How do I know what to offer? Well, right here on the bottom is how we figure this out. Your strike price, or your maximal allowable offer, or your MAO, right, as Ron LeGrand used to say, your MAO is when the Holy Trinity is met, right? That's your maximum offer right there. When these 3 things, as well as others, but these are the 3 pillars, these may, boom, you hit those. That's the max you can go. Because if you go over that or under that or over that, the deal's not going to work, right? You're not going to have 11% cash, right? If you go down to 8, okay, well, you're not going to have that. So that's your maximum allowable offer. So now where do you start negotiating? Well, we'd like to go minus 10% off your strike price, okay? Get below your maximal allowable offer. It's only good negotiating skills, right? If you know you have $5 to spend at the store, right? Okay, you only have $5 to spend and you want to buy 2 pieces of candy or 2 pieces of jewelry or whatever. What are you going to do? You're going to go in and see if you can negotiate the price down on the 2 things that you're looking at buying down below your $5, right? Or right at your $5. But you always want to start below where you want to spend. If you only have 5, you're going to go in looking for things that are $2.99, a buck, 50 cents. So you walk out of there with more, okay, and not come to the register with $5 and they say, okay, it's 25.37. Oh, same thing here, folks. So here's a good way to do this. The strike price is there. I hope this helps you. I hope this is something. I know Mark was talking about getting something like this, but this page here in this revised Holy Trinity, this is the starting block right here, folks. This is how you work these opportunities into deals right here, okay? And again, John, I'll take a question here just in a few seconds. Hang on. How do we find these opportunities, right? How do we go out and find opportunities? All right. All commercial or most commercial opportunities are sold through commercial brokers. Okay. First, you need to find listings, right? The broker community is what's going to help you find that. You go to a broker site. It was one of the bonuses in this package here is a list of broker sites that we use, and we give you 2 pages of broker sites. Then you got to go to the broker site, right? Then you go, here's CBR, Richard Ellis. Every one of these broker sites are going to have you sign a confidentiality agreement. Don't freak out. Don't not do it. It's no big deal. It's usually done electronically, and basically what it is, it's just a statement, a couple page sheet saying, hey, we're going to release the financials of this property. If you move forward and purchase the property, you need to pay us a commission. Great, cool, awesome. Because again, you're going to be working with that broker. You're going to be using that broker to get information out of the seller. Go ahead and fill out the confidentiality agreement, and then you're ready to go. So now, after that, you receive the offering memorandum, okay, the OM. All right, let's take a look at, what is the offering memorandum, right? The offering memorandum is basically a marketing package put together by the commercial real estate broker. Okay, it has a lot of information in there about the opportunity. I highly recommend you go and sign up in your target areas that you're looking at doing, and your target states, your target areas. Go inside and start getting those. Cost you nothing to get the packages, right? To get the things. So what it is it has financials about the property. It has demographics for the area, demographics for the property itself, what's around the property. So they do all this, a lot of this data work for you, which is great. My number one suggestion here would be is first pick an area that you don't want to buy properties in. Okay, going back to our thing here, right? Let's say you have no desire to go to Tacoma, Washington. Sign up and go to Dakota, Washington, start getting the broker's packages, start running the numbers, feeling comfortable. What I'm telling you to do is practice first on an area you have no desire to invest in. So when you make all your mistakes and the broker says, "What are you talking about? Geez, I need a proof of funds. You're a newbie," you can answer and hit all those questions. So when you come to the area that you really want to invest in, you've already practiced and gotten discouraged or whatever and gotten, let's say kicked down, and you gotten yourself back up. So when you come to the area that you really want to invest in, you're a pro, right? So that's my number one tip out of this whole thing is don't worry about these people. These people put on their pants just like you and I do, folks. But again, do it in an area first for, until you're comfortable. It may take you 3 months, it may take you 6 months. I don't know, but practice somewhere else. So you got the marketing package. Great. That's for the first step in this. The second step is take that marketing package, take a look at it, put it into the spreadsheet, and I'll show you how to do that here in a minute. Then the next call back to the broker is, hey, I'm looking for the financials on this property, because the financials you're going to find in the marketing package, the OM, are very, very basic. Okay, they're not going to give you the history. So you're going to ask for a T12 or a trailing 12 or the income and expense report, okay, along with the rent roll. Okay, so those are what you're going to have. Those two things you're going to ask for. The income and expense is called T12. It's the trailing 12. It may be, and that's what's called as a T or trailing 12 months. It may be a T9. It may be a T3. You can annualize it, okay, from there. So that's your next call to the broker once the marketing package looks it fits your criteria, then you move into this. So that's what you need to look for and ask the broker for those two things. So what are you looking for in an opportunity, right? You're looking for the location, right? What's the location? Where, what is the opportunity in your target market location? Again, if we're doing this for practice, it's not. So, but this is where you want to sit down. Okay, you've already done your practice, or you've got enough practice. You want to start on your target market. What do you look for? Does it meet your buying criteria? Do you have a buying criteria? Everybody should have one of those. What that means is our buying criteria is we go from 24 units to 100 units in these certain cities, the Midwest, Southeast, and minimum price of $5 million. That's my buying criteria. I already know that's like my elevator speech, right? Just like when you're trying to go get a job, you get an elevator speech. That's what you have to have here. So when you're talking to these brokers, you just don't tell them, I just want a deal. Okay, well, what does that mean, son? What do you mean by a deal? Be very specific. Hey, I'm looking for 10 to 20 units. And you don't have to be exact right now. Just, again, be thinking, what is your target location? What is your buying criteria? Okay. If you're not comfortable saying, I want 35 to 100 units, go 35 to 40. Boom. Start somewhere, right? What's near the opportunities you're looking at? What areas are you targeting? What's happening around the area? Jobs, construction, new building, and new warehouses. What is the demographics of the area? And a lot of this stuff you can get from the OM, because these marketing packages that the broker puts out, they have a whole team of people doing this. Okay, so you can get preliminary stuff from the OM that you may just have to validate and find out and dig deeper, right? What's the current tenant profile of this property? It's a great price, a great area, but wow, the tenant is our students, or the tenants are elderly, or the tenants are on Section 8, or their tenants are high rent mobile professionals. I don't know. you know you don't have to really, you just need to understand what the tenant profile is, and each one of those I named has its own idiosyncrasies, right? What's the crime in that area, if any? Is there crime in this area? I can tell you right now, folks, from experience, you cannot change an area by changing the property. Okay, so if you think you're going to go in, you found this great deal, but it's on the south side of town and nobody goes over there, but you think you're going to buy this property, and because you paint it and, get a property manager in there and put all this good stuff around, gates around it and stuff like that, that's great, but that's not going to change that area. Okay, so just don't get caught up in that belief that, okay, I'm gonna buy a property and I'm just gonna, it's gonna gentrify, by one. No. Gentrification takes years, and it takes a big force to do that. Case in point is where I live here in Michigan. We have Dan Gilbert down here in the city of Detroit that's spending billions and billions of dollars, and the city's still not back. Okay, I don't know about you, but I don't have billions and billions of dollars right now, at least, right? So don't think that buying one property is going to change the whole neighborhood. Please don't get caught in that. All right. So where to look? What are some of the sources for this information, right? Almost all these are free, right? You're already on one right there, local RIA. You're already on webinars. There's a whole bunch of, free sites out there. Google Map, Google Earth, crime mapping, Zillow, Redfin, your local assessor's office, the local government offices. Think about this, folks. Most assessors and most tax professional or treasury department in your local city or township, they are a source of information, a gold mine. You know why? And they'll talk your ear off. You know why? Because 99% of the people that come in there are bitching at them. Why'd you raise my assessment? Why are my taxes so high? You and the city government. You go in and say, hey, can you tell me something about that property or about multifamily? They'll it'll be a change of demeanor. You probably won't get out of there in less than 20, 30 minutes because they're actually talking about stuff they like to talk about, right? So just think about that. Broker reports, again, we looked at that as well. A lot of brokering reports like Berkshire, they produce yearly or quarterly. Yardi does the same thing. They produce all this stuff. And again, this is all free data. You got to take it all in. You can also do Google alerts for your area, right? And go to local RIA clubs. Set up a Google alert for that. That's perfect for if you live out of town or not in the same state. Well, you can't be reading that newspaper. Set Google alerts for that, or have the Google alerts pull that stuff for you, and it drops it right in your mailbox every day. Start looking here first, okay? So again, we talk about the trailing 12, the T12, the income and expense reports, right? So you get the income and expense reports, and you also get the rent rolls. Okay, so what we do is looking for the trends in the data. So once you get that from the broker, and you put it into your spreadsheet, you're looking for trends, right? You're looking for, okay, did the rent really go up? How many people are behind? Where's the expenses going? That's why it's a great idea to, when you get these from the broker, convert them to an Excel spreadsheet so you can run all those charts, so you can run all those figures. And again, you don't have to go crazy with this, folks, but just get it to where you can manipulate and say, okay, why is this one line item going up by 5% every year? Why is construction cost or contract services so high compared to others? This tells the story of the property. Where's the opportunity to improve based on what the numbers tell you? Is the owner neglecting it and just running up charges, all the way? Are they just running it efficiently, or are they just letting their sister handle it, and whoever gets paid, they get paid, right? So that's what you look at. So you look at that for the trends in the data. Let's take a look at the rent roll, right? Again, a lot of these things come in PDF because they come from a accountant or from the seller himself, and they lock it all down, convert it to Excel so you can manipulate the data. You're looking at actual average rents per unit, okay? And also look for loss to lease, look for the tenant history, okay? To make sure that everybody, on the rent roll, it should have a date move in and a date move out. what they're paying. Are they behind in rent? You want to be a red flag, a big red flag with flashing red lights on it if every tenant moved in last month. Unless it's a brand new property, or they just, you knew that there was a fire and they just started, extending tenants yet last month, that's a big red flag. That means they're stacking the deck, getting people in there so they can sell it at the price you're trying to buy it. So tenant history is very, very important. How many long-term tenants? That will tell you something as well, as far as if there's a lot of turnover. Why is there a lot of turnover? Is the management bad? Did they get in there and the place is a piece of junk? Did they get it and the maintenance people not fixed anything? Take a look at the maintenance costs. Are they low? Are they high? Those will, these will actually tell you a story, and that's what you're looking for. All right. So let's putting it all together. Now, putting this all together, this is kind of wordy, and I do apologize. This is kind of walking through the spreadsheet real quick and really kind of giving you definitions. This was what you'll want to read on your own, but I'll go through it real quick. Your gross potential rental income is assuming all units are rented at the current market rates. Okay, that gives a starting point, right? That's your GPRI. That's your gross potential rental income. What's the potential of this property? Then your loss to lease comes in there. You take that out, right? That's the amount lost due to rent increases or early signed leases at lower rates, right? Let's say you had to fill the property up last month, and we had to give, $100 off. We had to get a free microwave or a free cable. Those are all lost to leases. You're not, the market rent is X, and you had to give X minus Y, right? That comes in and gives you your gross scheduled rents at 100%. Okay, that's what that gives you. Okay, we also have two types of vacancies, folks. We have a physical vacancy and a economic vacancy. Now, a physical vacancy is exactly what it says. Physically, that unit is empty, right? We have 5 empty units. There's nobody living in them. Those are vacant. But now we have also a figure of economic vacancy. Now, you may have a vacancy rate of 5%, but your economic vacancy may be more like 7% because you've got a model unit. You've got, let's say, your handyman living in one unit. He's only paying $50 a month, or you had to give, 3 elderly people in there discounted rates because they're on the first floor or something like that. Those are economic. They're meaning that they're not at full market rates because of some reason, right? And that's what you need to look at. Always be prepared for that. Utility reimbursements and also other income, and we've talked about that. Okay, here's a snapshot of what I just talked about in math formula, right? This is what it'll look like in your spreadsheet, and I'll show you that in a few minutes here. And it basically just walks you through what this cost would be. Now, one thing I'd like to mention here about expenses on apartment buildings and apartment multifamily, expenses are always at 50% or more. Okay, 50 to 60%, that's typical. If they're less than that, you need to dig into the numbers, okay? Because there's something they're not expensing. There's something they're not telling you. So, I just called on a broker the other day, a couple of months ago, I should say. And this property was, I'm sitting out in front of it. I'm calling the broker. Hey, great. What's going on? How you doing? What's your expenses? What are they running? What do you think? Oh man, we're doing such a good job. Oh, these guys are running. We're running about 22%. Oh, wow, really? That's pretty good. Why I'm sitting in the car looking at the old decrepit sign on the building for the apartments that I can barely read. He's telling me, yeah, the expenses are at 20%. Well, yeah, of course they're at 20% because they're not spending any money on anything, right? I can't even read the sign for the building, So don't ever let them, but that's an opportunity. You got to look at all this stuff as opportunities, right? They say their expenses are below the 50% threshold. Great. Let's dig into that. What are they not doing? Now, it could be a case where if they own several properties, they're taking expenses from here and putting them onto another building. And that's the kind of stuff you need to look for, right? All right, so let's take a look at rules of thumb. How do we know when we're looking at these expenses, right? What are acceptable? Oh my gosh, how do I know? Well, the National Association of Apartment Building Owners, the National Apartment Association, I should say, I'm sorry, publishes it. You can buy the manual or the book that comes out every year. They have marketing costs in there. They have all the things they pull. You can buy different parts of the country, the different areas. You can buy the whole country. So all this stuff is documented. All this is research that other people have done, right? They poll their members, so that's where they get this, and this is exactly where these came from here. Your insurance is $250 a door, and these are really just starting numbers, folks. Okay, just to get you some numbers to put in those slots, so you can evaluate these properties. Because possibly in the first deal or the first opportunity, you're not going to have an insurance guy you can call right away, right? Well, use this information, at least get you one step closer. Then what that does is, again, with the Holy Trinity, get you closer to, is it an opportunity or is it a deal, right? I mean, you don't want to be sitting here and wasting time running around trying to meet insurance guys and stuff, and you haven't even run the numbers on this property, and you've wasted 2 weeks. And if it is a deal, somebody else has bought it, right? If it's an opportunity and it just stays that way, you've wasted so much time. So use these rules of thumb as a guideline for you, okay? And these are also included in our spreadsheet we're going to give you tonight, okay? All right, we're coming to the end here, coming near to the end. What I'd like to do is go out and find an opportunity, run the numbers. As a bonus for listening us, I'm going to switch from this presentation and I'll show you our spreadsheet that we're going to give you tonight. We're going to give you a free copy of the Apartment Deal Analyzer software, which I'll show you in a second. We're going to give you the PowerPoint going over the deal criteria, what a deal looks like. We're going to give you a pre-recorded webinar covering the purchase timeline process. That was a webinar I did a couple months ago. We'll give you that free too as well. A list of targeted cities in Michigan to invest in, because again, I'm in Michigan here, but I know this webinar will go over the country, but the majority of the people on this call tonight are from Michigan. A list of commercial real estate investing, or I should say broker sites, okay, listing sites. There's 2 pages of those. Those are for any part of the country. It really doesn't matter. And then also we'll give you a copy of this PowerPoint, okay? And how you go about getting that is give me an email, okay? And also, just a shameless pun here, a shameless thing, we're looking for properties and opportunities as well. We're looking for self-storage apartments and mobile home parks. We pay referral fees. Put the numbers into the opportunity spreadsheet that we're going to give you tonight. Send it on over to my email there, and and then we'll take a look at it. We may partner a deal. We may pay a referral fee. If the numbers make sense, we'll do a deal with you. We have no problem with that, okay? But to get the bonuses, please email me at pat@opportunitycreator.com, and I'll send you a link to our Dropbox where you'll download it from Dropbox. Now, you do not have to be a member of Dropbox to download this stuff, so don't panic. But there's my email address, and I'll put that back up at the end here of what it looks like. That's how you email me, and that's how you get your bonuses. All right, let me do something real quick here, because I told Mark I was going to do something extra special. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and I'm going to bring up our Deal Analyzer software. Okay, this is a copy of our Deal Analyzer software. It's not as extensive as this, so you won't get all these tabs here. But basically what we do, and this is how it is, and again, it's an Excel spreadsheet that we have put together. The blue areas are where you input information to, okay? The black are self-calculated or automatically calculated. So don't touch those. They're cells, or they should say they're formulas, you can see right there, right? So what you do first is you get your offering memorandum from your broker, right? From that broker, you get that, and then you put all the numbers right down this line here. There's the purchase price, number of units, your down payment's going to be 25% or whatever they are saying that the down payment is done. What you want to do is have this marketing package column match exactly to the OM. Okay, so you put in the gross potential run, and this will all be in the marketing package. Okay, it'll be in an income and expense or a balance sheet format. So you just plug in these numbers. What you're doing is twofold. One, you're verifying that the numbers that you're getting are correct. Okay, so this is the best way to do it. And two, you're going to use this when you call the broker back up and find out that the offer is a lot less than what they're looking for. As you can see, that's the second column, and I'll get to that in a second. So what you do is you put all the numbers in here, right? So this gives you the GPRI, there's your total net income, here's your expenses, list them out as they have them, okay? As they have them, put them all in there. Then you got 42%, then you got your expenses, then they get your debt service, put in there what they say that is, right? And it's always going to be, a good debt coverage ratio. It's always going to be that way because they're going to go and give you some financing off the LIBOR or some Bitcoin, whatever. I mean, now I'm being facetious, but a lot of times that's what they'll do is they'll have a lot of these different, LIBOR payments and stuff like that you would never get. But anyway, again, mirror this to what the OM is, okay? And this, like you said, you can then get a value. Here's the cap rates based on the cap rates in that area. What the value of the property is, and this will match what they're looking for up here as far as the purchase price. They sometimes will give you the cap rate, but most times they won't. But this will say, oh yeah, this is a 7.8. It's a 7 cap property, right? So you put all that information in there. Now the second and third and fourth ones are where you get to do your magic, right? This is where you have your opportunity. You start out putting their numbers in up top, okay? But again, then you say, okay, what am I going to have to do to this property? Most OMs will not have, you have to put in 50,000 to make this work. Sometimes they do, I shouldn't say that, but most times no. Well, if you look through the OM and, gee, there's old roofs or an old facade, I'm going to have to dress the place up. You're going to have to put something into the property, right? You're going to have some kind of funds for, fixing the property up. Let's say that you're buying this property and, it's flat roofs, or there's been a fire and the previous owner didn't fix it. Or you can look at the pictures of all the units and they have, let's say, a big chiller, and you want to convert it to individual forced air furnaces, whatever. So you're always going to have something in there for repairs, which they won't. So that'll change your numbers, right? But the biggest change is in your vacancy, okay, in your concessions, right? Because sometimes, again, if you go and do your research and do your Google Maps, you may see that they got flags out in front of their, everybody in that area, all the apartments got flags. You go out apartments.com. That's apartments.com. And go see what the rents are in that area. That's where a lot of your research is. What's the market rent, right? And if you see market rent, now I'm starting to see a lot of these where you even go on apartments.com, they're offering some kind of concessions, free month rent, this and that. Well, that's what you need to look at. That's where you need to put that kind of stuff. Always put a 5% vacancy rate to begin with. If they tell you more, put it in, but always put in a 5%. And then you start going down here and putting your expenses in based on, we've got the rules of thumb over here on the right, as you can see, right? Right here. You just start putting those in. As you can see, the numbers in yellow, right, that I've highlighted that. The system doesn't do it. I've highlighted that. That is the difference, right? One big difference that people always miss is real estate taxes. Real estate taxes are the one that the current owner is paying. That is not going to be your taxes when you buy the property. How do I know that? Bingo, right? And here in Michigan, guaranteed, your taxes are going to triple based on what you buy the property on, okay? In this example here, that is what the owner who bought the property, whatever, 10 years ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago is paying. When I recalculate based on my offer price of $6 million, and this is why I do this, is, boom, they wanted 8.7. I'm now at 6.4 to make all my numbers work, right? So I already know that we're going to have a problem. The broker's not going to like this offer, right? So these ones I've tagged in yellow are the differences based off of either the rule of thumb or research that I did. I go, there's, and in Michigan there's the Michigan property tax lookup. You just search that. It's from the Michigan State Treasury. You can put in your city, your county, and your school system, and it'll give you the homestead and non-homestead tax. Now, is it exact? No, it's not exact. But again, I would rather be over cautious than say, oh yeah, my taxes are only going to go up by $5,000. Okay, cool. Well, if I did that, I would be bottomed out, right? Of course. And I found out through due diligence that at that purchase price, my taxes will start at $162,000 a year. Now, if I went ahead and said, yep, okay, great, we're going to buy this at $8 million, I would have been just totally hosed, wouldn't I? Of course. I mean, so that's what we did here in these things. This is an actual property. This is a property on the west side of the state that we were looking at purchasing. And what I did when I came to this, and then I would do is go and put my financials in, right? Get in my equations. As you can see, when I did that, my debt coverage service ratio is a lot lower, right? Why? Because let's take a look at the expenses. They had expenses of $400,000, but I have expenses of $600,000. Okay, almost $200,000 more in expenses by using my knowledge and or as well my rules of thumb for that area, right? So I moved this price from 8.7 down to where this purchase price gave me my Holy Trinity, right? The 1.275. Your cap rate is 5.4. Your cash on cash is 3.88. There's nobody in their right mind would do that. So you have to target first is your debt coverage service ratio. Get that in first. And then you work backwards on all your cash on cash and the other ones you're looking at doing, your cap rate, stuff like that. Because if you can't get it financed, folks, it doesn't matter what the cash and cash is. It doesn't matter what the cap rate is. If you can't get this financed from a bank, you're dead in the water, right? So that's what I start with first. So this is the highest I can go. This price here is the highest I can go to meet my debt coverage service ratio. So at this point here, when you come to this point in the equation or the due diligence phase, this is when I call the broker and say, listen, what I do is I get on a Zoom meeting, and it's zoom.us, and I go and do a screen share like I'm doing with you right now, and I walk the broker through this. What I typically do is I go like this, and I hide and say, here, this is your information, right? Yep, you're right. That looks like, yeah, okay. Here's how and so what this does is, one, it shows the broker your methodology that you go through to do this. Now he's going to ask questions or she's going to ask questions, but again, it shows the due diligence process that you're doing, okay? Because a lot of brokers get these things and they get people emailing back, nah, it's not a deal, thanks, have a nice day, or they don't even take the time to do this. If I find one that I'm interested in, and it's in my target area, I will run every one of these. One is for practice. I get good at this and I start knowing that area better, right? Two, I then can call that broker back and be in his face or her face and say, hey, this looks great, but and this is exactly here. This is the gentleman I've been networking with for probably about 5 years right now. Haven't bought a deal from him, but you know what? You never know. He still brings me opportunities, right? We still are talking. So what I did is I just walk him down like this. Hey, this is this. Yep, this is right. Yep, this is right. This is exactly. And then I say, well, listen, here's what I wanted to talk to you about. And this is the reason we had this call, is I wanted to take a look at this. And obviously I opened up too many. You just, you keep these closed. Sorry about that. Kind of get a little ahead of myself here, but that's what you do. You go ahead and get these things so you can then get these other offers in, right? So you walk him down your side. I would still hide this, right? Let's do that. Sorry here. Okay. So what you do is you just walk him through back and forth, back and forth. And again, not much is going to change until you get here. Well, you will have to talk to him about that. Hey, listen, John or Bill, we're looking at putting in 500,000 or $1 million or whatever it is, because, as right, from, looking at the pictures, or let's say I went out to the property, if it's local, needs new driveway, it needs, needs new roofs, whatever it is. Okay. Then I just walk him down this and explain my methodology. Listen, taxes, that's our first big bump in the road, right? And I explained to him, I told him. In fact, on this property here, I actually found out that the broker was only, and that's why they had 42,000. They were only showing one parcel. This property sat on two parcels. And so he admitted that on the phone. But see what that does for me? It gives me another validation point, right? That I took the time to find that out, and I told the broker that. He's thinking, oh wow, this guy, okay, he knows what he's doing. He's not a newbie. He's not a wasting my time guy. He wants to get a deal done because he's taking all the right steps, right? But anyway, I don't want to belabor the point. I want to get you going here, and I want to respect your time. So I appreciate you going through this. All right, so we're coming up at the top of the hour here. You'll get this spreadsheet. Again, go through it, take a look at it, put the numbers in there, get back in touch with us. Again, we're open for business. We're looking for partners. We're looking for, private money. We're looking to help people, so give me an email and so I can get just bonuses to you. But as well, when you get the spreadsheet, go out and start running numbers. Email me with the package, email me with a completed spreadsheet, and we'll walk through it. We'll see if it makes sense for us to pursue it as a deal. Then we can talk about partnering together. But the biggest thing is, folks, get out there, make it happen. Get out there and start getting OMs and start running the numbers, because you're never going to know if it's an opportunity that turns into a deal until you run the numbers. Okay. And with that, I'm going to let you go. Thank you very much. I appreciate it again, Mark, for having me here tonight. I'll unmute here once I stop the recording here, and we'll take questions. So give me a couple seconds here after I say goodnight, and I'll be right back with you. But listen, thank you very much for your attention. And I will start with questions in the chat first, and we'll go from there. All right. Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate it. You have a great night.